Have you ever wondered why the same suffering returns to your life again and again, wearing different masks but carrying the same sorrow? Imagine this, you're walking through your daily life, and without warning, a memory grips your chest. A sharp word spoken years ago, a betrayal, a moment you cannot undo. And though you've changed your clothes, your friends, your job, something ancient still clings to your skin like dust that no rain ever washes away. This is the prison of the mind, not made of iron bars or brick, but of perception, of wounds unhealed and identities borrowed from pain. It is a quiet cell built not by others, but by the self you've mistaken for yourself, the ego. In the deep philosophy of the Buddha, there is no permanent self, no unchanging core that must carry the burden of yesterday's hurt. And yet, day by day, so many souls carry those burdens as if they were sacred. They polish their suffering like a keepsake, afraid to let go, because letting go feels like vanishing. But what if letting go is not disappearance, but liberation? The story of Mara, the tempter who approached the Buddha beneath the Bodhi tree, was not just a myth. Mara was not merely a demon outside the Buddha, but a voice within, the voice of fear, craving, and delusion. Mara is the ancient whisper that says, "You will never be enough without more, without control, without vengeance." And so many hear that whisper. It is in the girl who stares at her reflection with shame, tracing the lines time drew on her skin. It is in the man who chases wealth not for joy, but to silence a father's disappointment, buried decades deep. It is in the quiet ones who smile at dinner parties, but tremble at night, because stillness reveals the storm they buried. You see, the darkness is not always loud. Sometimes it is soft, gentle even, a numbness, a hollow ache. It seduces us into calling it normal. But the Buddha taught that dukkha, suffering, is not punishment. It is the path. It is the very doorway to awakening. The moment we finally stop running from it and turn to look with eyes wide open, we begin the descent into truth. And truth does not scream, it whispers. The truth is, your suffering is not your fault, but it is your responsibility. Not to blame yourself, but to tend to the garden of your mind with compassion. To see your trauma not as who you are, but as the mud through which the lotus must rise. And rise it will, if you allow the light in. But light does not break through forcefully, it waits. For the moment you tire of the cycle, when the endless scroll, the constant noise, the distractions can no longer fill the hole. When silence becomes not frightening, but necessary. In that silence, the Buddha still speaks, not in ancient words, but in the language of now, in the breath that you ignore, in the heartbeat you forget is yours, in the stillness behind your thoughts. The path is not out there. It begins where you are. So the question is not whether the light exists, but will you stop long enough to remember it? The journey inward begins not with thunder, but with a tremor, small, almost imperceptible, like the first breath after drowning, like the first tear after years of pretending everything is fine. This is where transformation lives. In the still chamber of the mind, beneath the constant chatter of wants and fears, there is a silent observer. It does not crave. It does not cling. It only sees. And this seeing is the seed of awakening. But few dare to meet it. Because to meet the observer, to sit quietly with oneself, is to let the masks fall away. And those masks have become so familiar. The roles you've played, the perfect daughter, the strong man, the achiever, the caretaker, they offered identity, meaning, structure, but they also became cages. And when the mask cracks, what's left? This question haunts the wounded self. The ego fights against silence, because silence exposes its illusion. It tells you, if you stop performing, you'll be forgotten. If you stop achieving, you'll be unworthy. These thoughts masquerade as truth, but they are echoes of conditioning. Think of a child, pure, untouched by praise or judgment. That child laughed without needing permission. That child cried without shame. That child did not know how to pretend. But then came the world, with its rules, its measurements, its punishments and rewards. And so, the mind built walls, each one meant to protect, but each one cutting you further from your essence. until the day came when you could no longer feel anything without permission. And still that child waits within, not broken, not gone, just buried beneath layers of narrative and time, waiting for the moment when you'll stop seeking love through others' eyes and return to the place it never left. The Buddha saw this clearly. In his early life as Siddhartha, he had everything: luxury, comfort, adoration. But the silk of the palace could not wrap the ache he felt inside. He saw suffering, and something cracked, not just in the world, but in his own mind. So he walked away, not to escape, but to encounter. He left not out of rejection, but out of deep reverence for truth. Because to remain asleep, even in golden sheets, is still a kind of death. And awakening sometimes means breaking your own heart open. You too have felt this pull. In the middle of a routine day, something calls. A moment of stillness. A longing you can't name. A flash of memory that shakes your foundation. It's not random. It's the soul remembering what the mind forgot. Do not ignore it. It is your invitation. To shed what no longer fits. To question the story you have told yourself about who you are and what you must become. Because healing is not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the world taught you to forget. And it begins with a single act: presence. The present moment is the only doorway to freedom. In it, you are not your past. You are not your fear. You are not the mistake you made or the one made against you. You are awareness itself, vast, luminous, untouched. But the mind resists. It clings to sorrow like a relic. It says, if I let go of my pain, what will I hold? But in the teachings of the Buddha, to let go is not to lose. It is to be free. And freedom is not the absence of struggle. It is the absence of false identity. So breathe. Feel your body. Hear the silence beneath the noise. You do not need to chase peace. It has always been here, patiently waiting. And now so are you. There comes a moment in every journey, not marked by applause or a sunrise, but by stillness, when something inside quietly shifts. No lightning, no revelation, just a subtle disillusionment with the noise. You begin to see the futility of chasing approval, like a thirsty man chasing a mirage. You begin to see that no amount of affection, validation, or success can fill the silence left by a soul disconnected from itself. And yet, this is not despair. It is the sacred discontent the Buddha himself felt on the night of his renunciation. He was not angry. He was not bitter. He was simply done. Done with the game of hiding. Done with the illusion of permanence. Done with the cycle of craving and disappointment. This is what the ancients called dukkha, not just pain, but the unsatisfactoriness of all things conditioned. Even pleasure, even love, even joy, when bound by expectation, becomes a seat of suffering. You feel this every time you attach your worth to something external. The compliment that fades, the lover who changes, the success that does not quiet the old wounds. And you wonder, why does the peace never last? Because true peace does not come from the world. It comes through you. The mind, left unchecked, will always search for an object to fixate on, something to gain, something to control, something to escape. This is its nature, and that is why the Buddha taught not to suppress the mind, but to observe it. As one watches a storm pass without clinging to the rain or chasing the wind. But observing requires courage. It means sitting in silence as your fears rise like ghosts. It means witnessing your jealousy, your neediness, your rage, not to judge them, but to understand. These emotions are not enemies. They are messengers sent from the parts of you that have been silenced for too long. The child inside you who was told to be quiet, the teenager who was punished for feeling deeply, the adult who smiles through grief because crying feels like weakness. These shadows do not mean you are broken. They mean you are human. And in Buddhism, humanity is not a flaw to transcend. It is a gateway to compassion. The Buddha did not become enlightened by escaping his suffering. He awakened through it by meeting it fully, gently, without resistance. Can you do the same? Can you sit beside your own pain and say, I see you not as a problem, but as part of your path, because every sorrow you've endured has shaped you, not into something bitter, but into someone capable of depth, of wisdom, of presence. These are not traits the world often rewards, But they are the ones that free you. And freedom is quiet. It does not boast. It does not demand. It is the soft sigh of letting go. The moment you realize you no longer need to prove your worth. The moment you stop defending your scars and start honoring them as the teachers they are. You have always been enough. Even when you were hurting. Even when you fell. Even when the voice inside said otherwise. The Buddha's path is not about perfection. It is about waking up again and again from the dream that you are separate, unloved, unworthy. You are none of those things. You are awareness itself, capable of holding all your sorrow without being destroyed by it. And the more you remember this, the less power your past has over you. There is a moment when you no longer need the world to reflect who you are, because the mirror within has become clear. No longer clouded by projections, no longer cracked by rejection, no longer fogged by the breath of fear. This clarity does not shout. It arrives like morning light on still water, subtle, certain, and soft. But to reach this place, you must first face the truth that so much of your life has been spent dancing with illusions. The illusion of control, the illusion of being needed to feel worthy, the illusion that if you just fix yourself enough, you will finally be lovable. These are not small lies. These are the threads that wove your identity, and unraveling them feels like dying. Not a death of the body, but of the false self, the persona built to survive, not to thrive. The one who learned how to please, how to perform, how to pretend, just to feel safe in a world that rarely honors tenderness. But you were not born to be a mask. You were born to be real, and realness is raw. To be real is to admit when you are lost, to tremble and not hide it, to desire deeply and not shame yourself for it, to walk into your own darkness, not with arrogance, but with sacred curiosity. This is what it means to walk the middle path, not of avoidance, not of indulgence, but of awareness. The path the Buddha revealed not as a religion, but as a way of being fully alive. And on this path, pain is not a failure. It is feedback. Anger is not sin. It is signal. Grief is not weakness. It is love in motion. Can you hold these truths in your heart? Can you forgive yourself for not knowing how to carry your sorrow more gently? Because healing is not a ladder. It is not linear. It spirals. You will revisit the same wounds in different seasons, each time peeling back another layer. But this is not regression. It is revelation. Each return is softer. Each descent is wiser. Each revisit is less about suffering and more about integrating. And slowly, like water carving stone, you change. You speak with more kindness, not just to others, but to the voice inside. You listen more deeply, not just to words, but to silence. You begin to recognize the sacred in ordinary things, the steam rising from tea, the breath that returns after tears, the eyes of a stranger that feel like home. This is the path back to yourself. Not the self you were told to become, but the self that was always there, quietly watching, patiently waiting, untouched by trauma. The Buddha called it the unconditioned, a state beyond clinging and aversion, a peace not dependent on what is happening, but on how deeply you are present. And presence is power. Not the kind that dominates, but the kind that dissolves illusion. The kind that sees a storm and does not panic. The kind that hears a harsh word and does not shrink. The kind that watches pain arise and chooses not to identify with it. You are not your pain. You are the one who notices it. You are not your anger. You are the one who watches it rise and fall. You are not even your healing. You are the space in which healing unfolds. And that space is holy. It does not need to be understood to be honored. It does not need to be perfect to be sacred. It only needs to be seen with the eyes of compassion, not the lens of judgment. So pause. Feel your breath. Let it remind you there is nothing you must become, only more of who you already are beneath the noise. The darkness you carry is not your enemy. It is your womb, and from it, light is already being born. There is a silence so deep, so profound, that when you enter it, the whole world seems to dissolve. Not into nothingness, but into truth. It is not the silence of emptiness. It is the silence of fullness, of presence so complete that there is no longer anything left to search for. This is where the Buddha arrived, beneath the Bodhi tree, as the last vestiges of illusion slipped away. Not because he conquered the world, but because he let go of needing it. He saw the root of suffering, tanha, craving, the desperate thirst for more identity, more safety, more permanence in a world that is inherently impermanent. This thirst, unchecked, turns into addiction, not just to substances, but to people, to patterns, to pain. Even the suffering you've endured, even the identity you've formed around it, becomes something you cling to. Because without it, who would you be? But freedom does not come through adding layers. It comes through shedding them. And so the Buddha did not offer more knowledge. He offered release, not from responsibility, but from illusion. And in this final turning of the mind, this letting go of the very need to fix, to become, to achieve, there was only stillness, clarity, and then awakening. You too are called toward this moment. You don't need to be a monk or renounce the world or shave your head to touch enlightenment. You need only to recognize that suffering is not a curse. It is a compass. It shows you where you are still bound. It reveals the places inside where your love has not yet reached, the broken relationship that still echoes, the betrayal you rehearse in your mind like a script, the shame that clings to your skin even when no one's watching. These are not signs of failure. They are invitations to bring light where it was once dark, to hold what you've been avoiding, to see the part of you that still believes healing is for someone stronger, someone wiser, someone better. But listen carefully. You are not broken. You never were. You are tired. You are layered in memory and expectation. But beneath all that, you are whole. The lotus blooms in mud, not in spite of it. This is the paradox the Buddha revealed, that what we try most to escape is often the very soil in which our freedom grows. So let the pain speak. Let the old stories unravel. Let the masks melt. Let the voices of fear and doubt rise, and watch them pass, like wind through empty fields. You are not here to resist life. You are here to remember it, not as a burden, but as a miracle. Even the hurt you carry is proof you felt, you loved, you tried. And in every moment you return to presence, you rewrite the past, not by changing it, but by no longer carrying its weight. This is the path of the awakened one, not of perfection, but of compassion, not of distance, but of depth. And now, as you stand at the edge of your own surrender, ask yourself, are you ready to stop running? Are you ready to let it fall away? The name, the wound, the fear. Because just beyond it, something waits. It has no name, no goal, no shape. It is you, unarmored, unashamed, and free. And when you finally meet yourself there, in that still, sacred space, you will know you are already home.